welcome back to another episode of Unsung. Today, when we go on the air, we just go on the air, but nobody ever sees what happens before or after the show, thank God. But it's today was one of those things where, and it's gotten to the point where I've gotten so superstitious. When it rains, when a guest is coming, I always pray, no car wreck, no thing. But guest finally got here, and weather and GPS and every failure, everything we just talked about in the previous monologue about that can cause you delays with technology happened to him. But I want to thank Howard PITKOW from WAGENWERX for coming over.
Thank you for having me.
And I've known you for a long time. I met you through doing computer repairs, did computer repairs at your store. And Howard runs a small foreign car repair place, old school place in Windmore. And the reason I have you on here, I didn't tell him this, is I've always admired your honesty, and I always like small business people. And my godchildren's grandfather was getting a car repaired, and you begged him not to do it. Do you remember that diesel rabbit? There was a diesel rabbit he was getting fixed, and you begged him not to do it. And he did it, and he didn't listen to you, and it came, as you predicted, came to light. But it was just nice to see somebody that was willing to. A businessman, it used to be you wanted to pay your bills, but you didn't need to make every shekel off of every person, and that's changed a little bit. You take really great pictures of, I don't know what I would call the pictures you take. It's just people out enjoying events, What do you have?
I do. So, I do event photography. I do a lot of music photography. I do concert photography.
I guess if you had a specialty, it would be concerts. Music and concert, that seems to be your passion.
Yes, concerts and music is my passion and my specialty. But I make money doing events, and I also work for the city at times for big jobs like the Philadelphia Marathon and Mummers Parade and things like that. And I get paid for that stuff. I get paid for music. I get paid for concerts, but not all the time, and not as well as an event.
How did you get involved in the photography?
I have to think about that. I've been using a camera since I was a kid. Digital cameras came out, and I really like the idea of the immediacy of, I don't have to take the stuff into the camera shop and get it developed. And once I got the digital camera, that's when I learned how to take pictures.
On digital.
On digital. I was a film photographer, but it stayed in automatic. I didn't know what the dials did. I didn't know what aperture was. I had no idea. I didn't care. I put it on automatic, and in fact, I had the first autofocus film camera. Minolta came out with this autofocus camera. I thought that was great. So I didn't have to do anything. I just put it on automatic, and it focused by itself, and it made pictures.
A lot of people wouldn't own that. They just did it on automatic. A lot of people consider and a lot of people wouldn't say that digital got them re-inspired or inspired or whatever. But I know what you mean, because I'm sure somewhere in my house there are a couple rolls of 35 millimeter film, at least 20 years old, in pockets of jackets that are just hidden treasures that I didn't know. I like the fact that you could know instantly whether or not it was a trashable picture, even though I don't actually throw any away ever, but you knew what was good. But there was something to be said for that mystery of having film developed, waiting for it to be going back to the shop.
Absolutely.
And with the instant gratification, I think part of it is that you're always chasing a better picture.
Yeah, but I learned how the camera worked, with digital. Because, you can learn how the camera works for film. Of course, people do that. But you like I said, you have to take it in. You have to wait till it comes back. You have to take notes, because once it comes back, you don't know what you did, right? But with digital, you can take a picture, look at it, and well, you screwed that one up, so you can make some adjustments and you fine tune it and you learn what works. And not only that, once I saw that and I was excited about it, then I started studying it, and I took a few classes. I read all the time. I still read all the time. I'm still learning. But it's real interesting to me, and I really do love it. And I like the development process too. So I can I don't need a darkroom. I can develop the software.
Right.
And it's I really do love that part of it.
Is it like a mixed metaphor for your life that technology made you love cameras and get impassioned about that, and probably in cars you probably curse it a little bit more?
Yeah, well, cars I have to deal with.
Aren't they giant rolling computers?
And, I love my job. I love working with cars and I love working with people, but I don't love the engineers that build the cars. So if I get upset, and I do, it's because somebody built something and they weren't thinking about me fixing it.
I think that's the big problem, that they build them so efficiently, they don't think about them being repaired. They think about them almost being disposable, And
maybe they do. But I mean, they're dealerships service cars, so you would think they would think about them. But, they do seem to learn, and they learn from mistakes. They do seem to get better and better. But there's always something. Sometimes I think they put something on the ground and built the car around it. and it takes you 8 hours to take something apart when it really shouldn't.
Are cars better until they break now?
Yeah, they are. They are. There's pros and cons, and we have computers now that kind of set us in the right direction of when something's broken. I can hook a computer up to your car and get trouble codes from it, and I mean, there's a myth that trouble codes don't fix the car. A lot of people will come into me, hey, I got this code and I know what it. No, you don't know what it is. You know a number, but yeah, I have that ability to look at the code and send me into the right direction of fixing it. In the old days, you didn't have that.
Do you still use your eyes, your ears, and your nose on repairs?
Yeah, you have to.
Well, I like your post. You'll put up a post every now and then, and you've made me a more understanding and less hateful about inspections, because every now and then you'll put up this horror picture and say, this is why the state mandates inspections, and you'll show a tire or a strut off of a car that is coming down the road. And I think in one sample you said this car is coming down the road in the other direction towards you, and that's why we have inspections, so that we can find these things before an accident happens. And
yeah, it's remarkable. We still have that. I had do you know what a Volkswagen Thing is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a Volkswagen Thing. This is a funny story. A Volkswagen Thing, I had a woman, she called me up 2 weeks ago, and she found me online, and she loved my reviews, and she has this thing. It hasn't been out on the street in 10 years, but she wants her son to drive it. I asked her about the condition of it. I got a little worried. It hasn't driven in 10 years. And she said, no, it starts right up, and it's great. It just has an oil leak. Little oil leak. It shouldn't cost much to fix it because it's just like a little couple drops on one side. I said, well, that sounds like I can handle that for you. Yeah, bring it in. I'll take a look. So she did. She dropped it off the night before. I brought it in the morning, and I parked it inside, and then I left it there, and I went to do some other business, and I came back, and I took a picture of it. I had 18 spots of oil on the floor underneath of it, like the size of a $50, and they were everywhere. So I raised the car up in the air, and I looked, and everything that could be wet was wet. Everything that could be leaking was leaking. And I thought, this is really terrible. This isn't what I was told. And let me take a look at this car. So I got my flashlight out, and I started looking at the bottom of the car. And, it was pretty rusty. And I looked in the brakes, and there's like no brakes on the back of the car. I mean, nothing. I could see the brake shoes were gone.
How did he get there?
She drove it there. Yeah. And then I walked to the front of the car, and they have rubber brake lines. Well, brake hoses, rather. I'm sorry. And I'm looking at this hose, and it looked like it was ballooning out, like it had like bubbles on it, quite a few of them. And I thought, that looks really bad. And I touched it, and when I touched the hose, brake fluid squirted out and actually squirted on me.
So you broke it.
And well, there you go. I had to call her up and tell her this stuff, and I said, first of all, the oil leaks are way, way more than you told me, and you need the engine rebuilt, but Now you can't drive the car home because the condition of the brakes. I mean, do you know they have no brakes in the back of the car? She goes, well, yeah, I know, but, that can be fixed. She drove it there. But with the brake fluid leak, I insisted that she has to, fix it or tow it home, but you can't drive it home. And she wouldn't listen to me. She wanted to save her money up. She couldn't afford to fix it, so she's going to leave it outside, and I'll drop you a check in the mail slot for your inspection, and I'm going to come pick it up. And I said, well, you really need to tow it. I'm going to have it on your invoice that it's unsafe to drive, and I really wish you would tow it. And I only live a mile from your place. I'm going to drive it home. And you can't really do anything. You can't call the police and say, this car's dangerous and she shouldn't be driving it. I'm not allowed to do that.
Huh.
I'm not allowed to. It's funny. I'm not even allowed to keep their car if they don't pay me. I mean, I can present the bill to them when they come to pick the car up. They can take it. They don't have to pay me. I shouldn't be saying.
You shouldn't say that on the radio. I'm just thinking you shouldn't say that.
I'm teaching something bad, but yeah, you can call the police, but they're not allowed to step in and say no, you can't do that. And you have to take them to court. It's never happened to me. Thank God, it's never happened to me. But
you've got a pretty loyal customer base, and it's funny because you say that about the car, and I think about when I would service computers, and I would always say people were always bringing me unbroken equipment because they would always tell me when they were at the counter how it wasn't broken. They're just out taking it for a walk or whatever. Nobody ever comes in and says, this thing is going to cost me a fortune. This thing is destroyed. There's nothing wrong with it. And my brother looked at it and he said nothing's wrong with it. So I decided to bring it over to you to show you that nothing's wrong with it. But if there is something wrong with it, it's minor. And I think it's this, but you must, as a mechanic, because we never took in stuff. We never had a drop off or anything. You must come back the next day and find surprises. And
oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's tough because I'm working by myself now. So I'll schedule 3-4 cars a day. And when I do that, I know I know what to expect pretty much. But when you get there and there's 2 more cars on the parking lot, that's, it's nerve-wracking. But I'll tell you what, there was a time when I used to drive into work in the morning and there would be 3 or 4 cars there that it was unexpected. And I would get mad. I would really get mad. Like, where am I going to park these cars? I don't even have a place to park. Where are these cars coming from? Can you imagine a business person saying, where are these cars coming from?
Yeah, where's this business coming from?
Because, like 6 months to a year later, when we hit a slow period, and, it was just slow everywhere. Everywhere was slow. There were days when my phone wouldn't ring. And I would think about that day when I was in my car saying, where are all these cars coming from? I've never done it again. I've learned a lesson now. So now when the cars come and there's too many cars there, I just deal with it.
Yeah, that's all you can do with anything. So at WAGENWERX, you specialize in foreign cars.
Now I specialize in Volkswagen and Audi.
Well, they're foreign cars.
Well, yes, but I don't specialize in all foreign cars.
Oh, okay.
There's a difference.
Well, aren't Volkswagen and Audi kind of just like saying Volkswagen and highbrow Volkswagen?
Pretty much.
Do you do Porsche?
No. Well, I have a couple that I inspect.
Okay.
I prefer, and old ones. Like
old ones.
356s that are basically Volkswagen.
They're Volkswagen, that's why I say that, because we're in the Volkswagen family.
I don't really service too many Porsches because I'm not really trained. I'm good at what I do, and I'll tell people in a minute, you don't want me working on that. Like when you come in with your Ford Mustang and you have me open the hood and I take a look, I look at no, you don't want me working on this, trust me.
Right.
Because I don't know.
What's the weirdest thing you ever came in and was dropped off in the lot?
Ooh. Oh, it was a kit car. Yeah, it was, Volkswagen. People have kit cars where they take a Volkswagen and take the body off.
Doom buggies and stuff like that?
Yeah, doom buggies, but this thing wasn't that. This was like an MG something or other, like real long. It was, I don't even know what it was, but it was really, really weird, and it was put together by somebody that shouldn't have done it. And it was just absolutely terrible. And it was a surprise. It had